Good evening, folks. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular city council meeting, Monday, December 18th, 2023. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay, we have got, first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We got almost a full house, so I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening and helping us celebrate our two councilmen that will be leaving us in such sweet sorrow just in a little while. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it, everybody. We've got some great stuff at the first this evening. We have got some outstanding young folks in the back of the room back there, and we're going to recognize them for their accomplishments this year. And I will come down to the podium to begin that process.
Can you turn up the volume a little bit?
Our first presentation is for George Jacobs. If you would, please, sir. Congratulations. Come around here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's tell everybody why you're here. Okay? All right. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America first bestowed their highest ranking of Eagle Scout in 1912 and becoming to the present the award to qualify for Scouts. Whereas George Jacobs has proven to be an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America and earned the prestigious Eagle Scout Award. Whereas this award is a distinction that will follow George throughout his life and will be a beacon to others of leadership and commitment that this young man has shown. Whereas the city and the city council of Tega would like to congratulate George for his work with others to build a kayak rack, tear down and remove an old kayak rack, and paint a supply shed for the Annie Springs Close Greenway. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the city of Tega, duly assembled, do hereby congratulate and recognize George Jacobs III for his achievement in becoming an Eagle Scout on this day, the 20th of November, 2023. And I know it's a month ahead of time, so. But George, appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if y'all want to come down here, come on down. Folks, this is the Fort Mill High School girls cross country team. And I'm glad they can run fast because I can't. Coach, congratulations. Thanks for what you do. This is a proclamation recognizing the Fort Mill High School girls cross country team as the 5A state champions, and Coach Lee Whitaker being named South Carolina Track and Cross Country 5A Coach of the Year. Congratulations. Whereas the young women that make up the Fort Mill High School girls cross country team have achieved outstanding accomplishments. Whereas this past November, the young women who make up the cross-country team earned Fort Mill High School the 4th state title as the 2023 Class 5A South Carolina State Champions. Whereas head coach Lee Whitaker led the girls cross-country team to the 5A State Championship and was named the SCTCCCA 5A Coach of the Year. And whereas the City of Tega and City Council would like to commend each runner for their achievements and dedication, as well as the coaching staff for their leadership of their fellow Yellow Jackets in Fort Mill High School. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we the City Council of Tega do hereby congratulate and recognize the coaching staff and the Fort Mill High School girls cross-country teams for their achievement in becoming the 2023 5A South Carolina State Champions. All right. How we doing, please? Can you move that?
Yeah, if you want to move the podium.
Make a line right through there.
Thank you, man.
I can do that. All right. You get to hang out with me for a minute. Hang on, I got to push this back over here. Got to get square with that camera back there. Okay. Now, this is a proclamation recognizing Alivia Cleveland as the individual state champion for girls cross country. This is your second time doing that, isn't it? So defending state champion. All right. I may need some pointers from you on how to run. Okay, all right. So, whereas in 2022, Miss Alivia Cleveland took home the state title, winning the 5A girls race in 18 minutes and 30 seconds. The first state cross-country champion for Fort Mill High School since 2011. Whereas in May of 2023, Ms. Cleveland set a new state record in the 1,600 meter by winning in 4 minutes 54 seconds at the 5A state track meet. And in November 2023, Ms. Cleveland led her fellow Yellow Jackets to the 5A state championship with a top time out of all 2023 South Carolina cross-country runners in 18 minutes and 17 seconds. That's fast. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the City Council of Tega, do hereby congratulate and recognize Alivia Cleveland for her tremendous accomplishments as an individual runner and a member of the Fort Mill High School girls cross-country team. I'm going to push this out. All right, you get the whole I'm getting my workout. Let's give those girls another round of applause, folks. They deserve it. Okay. This will probably help. Our next is a presentation regarding Zonastat-D by Dr. Rutberg of Tufts University. If you would, sir.
That is a tough act to follow. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Alan Rutberg. I am the director of the Center for Animals and Public Policy at the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University. For 30 years, I have been conducting research to find a contraceptive tool that is safe and humane, it's effective, and that will be useful enough that we can put it into the hands of communities, because it doesn't matter what people do in the lab if it doesn't actually work to help people and to help animals. All those years, we've done 6 or 7 different projects, and all of them have been designed, again, to make it possible and feasible for communities to use our vaccine. Zonastat-D is the EPA registered name of the vaccine that we first started using in 1993 at Fire Island National Seashore in New York. And the point of that project was just to demonstrate first that it would be effective to use on deer in the field, and second, that eventually we could do something to control their population. And we worked very closely with the communities there. In fact, they invited us in to do that research. We also worked with the National Park Service and other folks. But the community there was absolutely essential to the success of the project. We couldn't have done it without them. And so over the years, we've done a series of other trials in Maryland, at Fripp Island in this great state, and more recently at Hastings-on-Hudson in New York. And the Fripp Island study was absolutely crucial because what we did there was to test a longer acting version of the vaccine. So at Fire Island, we were in a position where we had a bunch of deer that we could treat every deer, and people were very familiar with them. But it's always been clear that to expand the use of the vaccine, we need to have something where you don't have to give it to deer every year. And so at Fripp Island, we tested a version of the vaccine that we showed there worked for 2 to 3 years with a single shot. We also showed there that we could reduce the population quite dramatically, about 50% over 5 years, which was faster than most people thought would be possible. We then extended that research in New York at Hastings-on-Hudson and showed not only did that 2 to 3 year vaccine hold up in a completely different population of deer, but also that if you give them a booster after 2 or 3 years, that booster will add at least 3 more years. So that vaccine, PZP-22, isn't ready yet, but we're really working on it. And it still requires some quality control and some manufacturing issues, and we need to get it through the EPA and all those regulatory hurdles. Again, what we've always devoted the work towards is coming up with a tool that communities can use to manage their deer conflicts and manage populations and reduce community concerns of deer and reduce the impacts of deer in the community. And so we've done that in other ways as well in terms of our regulatory work. So in getting the original, the Zonastat vaccine approved or registered with EPA, we made sure that they did not require us to have to capture an ear tag deer. As my late colleague Jay Kirkpatrick once said, if you have to capture a deer, you don't, or capture animals, you don't have anything. And it's always been about remote delivery for us. So not having to capture deer is a big deal. At Fire Island, we did not. At Fire Island, we used the individual community members knew a bunch of their deer, and that combined with marking darts that we used that simultaneously vaccinated and put a dye spot on the animals enabled us, at least in the short term, to tell us who was treated and who wasn't. So we did not have to tag deer at Fire Island. So Tega Cay would be the first community in the United States, I guess in the world, to use PZP as a management tool. We have always had to go through the whole research rigmarole and get the state permits and go through the university bureaucracy and go through all these different steps to make it research. And I've had to be involved, and there's been PhDs and vet techs and veterinarians that have had to oversee it. And we want this to be simpler than that. This is new. There's no plug and play here. Nobody's ever done this before. So if you take this on, you will be pioneers, which means you pay the cost of being pioneers, which is that you're going to futz around and do all kinds of things and make mistakes, and the learning curve for the first year or two will be very steep. But if you do choose this path, hopefully we'll start seeing some reductions in your deer population within a few years. You'll start seeing reductions in fawns right away. I would suggest, after having spent a grand total of a day and a half here, most of which was in the rain, that that you have some areas that have a lot of deer impacts and some not so much. And I would certainly encourage you to focus your efforts in the areas that have a lot of deer impacts and have a lot of high concentration of deer. You'll treat the most deer, you'll have the most impacts, you'll address the concerns of residents if you focus on those areas, and then you can spread out over time to other areas. So that's my sort of suggestion based on that. I would also encourage you to, if you're going to go ahead with this, your ability to dart deer will depend on the deer and the deer behavior and how they respond. And so in our different projects at Hastings, at Fire Island, at NIST, at Fripp, we've used lots of different techniques for darting deer. So we have used bait stations at all those places. At Fire Island, many of the residents fed deer quite a bit, and we were able to convince many of them to reduce their feeding to the time that we needed them for baiting, which was very helpful, both for us and for the Park Service's management goals. At Hastings-on-Hudson, which is 15 miles north of New York City, and very dense, we did a lot of darting from the street out of our cars with deer in people's yards. And at Hastings, we were also capturing deer, which made it much more complicated. But darting out of golf carts, darting in people's backyards, all those kinds of things we've done in other places. And so try not to limit yourself too much and what kinds of darting techniques you allow. Again, the deer are smart. We've had to change cars because they recognize the cars that the darters are in. And probably hunters are aware of that as well, that they're pretty smart. But in any case, anything I can do to help and advise, I've got some folks who I work with who have worked with me over the years who are pretty savvy about darting deer, and they're happy to sort of help train and get you set up. So, are there questions? Okay,
If you wouldn't mind entertaining a few.
I don't mind.
Okay. Scott?
Welcome, Doctor. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
And thank you for taking the time that you had this week to take a look at our beautiful city.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, appreciate that. Tell me about the study at Fripp Island and how that study was administered with PZP. Was that ear tag or was that
Yeah, so at Fripp Island,
that wasn't a guide tag?
we captured all the deer that we worked with. They had a lot of deer. When we first got there, they would be out in the daytime, 6, 7 scrawny-looking deer on the golf course. They had, I don't know if they had more deer or fewer deer than you had, but they had a lot of deer. And so we ended up capturing quite a few and ear tagging them. And when we captured them, we would also hand inject them with a PZP-22, the long-acting vaccine, and then would follow them over time. We gave some of them boosters later.
Was there anything done at that time to prevent any kind of infection at the injection site?
No. There's a long history of darting horses, wild horses, and deer. Often there will be a small injection site reaction of a little granuloma or something, a little bump. But we just didn't see abscesses or anything like that.
Good.
So that has not been a major problem for us.
Since the budget is challenged, so one of the questions I have with that process, with capturing, tagging, and administering the drug, tell me a little bit about how that budget process worked, if you were involved in any of that. Because that sounds like a lot of labor to capture the deer.
It is,
tag them,
yeah, I
and
mean, we
inoculate.
figured out that it costs about 4 or 5 times more to capture the deer and treat them than to just dart them, which is why we're very interested in just, in darting
Just darting, right.
without capture. So, yeah, it was $500-600 a deer to capture and tag them, because more time, you need the drugs, and, yeah, I mean, mostly it would take 3 or 4 hours or more per capture, versus an hour a deer for just darting them. So,
Is it true that the effective dose looks like an initial dose and then a booster, or a booster and initial dose? Tell me, speak to that a little bit.
for the Zonastat, it works best with two shots. So a primer, and then there's a lot of flexibility in when the second shot is administered. So it has to be a minimum of 2 weeks, but can also be 6 months later. So it doesn't have to be at the same time.
Okay. Now, how do we know which ones we gave the primer to with the dye?
Right.
I would guess that doesn't last very long.
Right, the dye does not, and so that is going to be the biggest challenge. I think, in our experience and my quick look around here and talking to people, female deer tend to stay in the same groups in the same neighborhoods, and so I think there will be a fair bit of individual knowledge involved in knowing who's been darted. They behave a little bit differently, but I think what you'll have to do, again, is work in specific areas and redart in these same areas, and then move on to other areas.
Last questions for me. I don't want to hog the stage here, but sorry, guys. How long was the study in FRIP, and can you talk about what that effectiveness looked like short-term and long-term?
Yeah, it was 2004 to roughly 2011. We sort of, again, bumbled around a little bit the first year and did some things that didn't work with the vaccines. But as we settled on our formulas, we would track the individual deer, and with the individual deer, typically they would remain contraceptive for at least 2 years, and many into a third year. With respect to the population, it sort of stabilized pretty much right away. We don't know what the trend was before we got there, so we're not sure what that means. But over 5 years, it dropped about 50%. So
Thank you.
it was well received by the community.
Yeah. I don't think that we as a city would be interested in the legalities and the liabilities of darting deer on private property, meaning people's yards. The dart falls out immediately, has to be retrieved. I don't have permission to be in somebody's yard. They're not in favor. The darter misses the deer and hits their kid coming out of the front door. So,
Okay.
I mean, I
So-
think we would have to do it on city-owned property. Logistically, with the number of deer that we would have to dart, I mean, I don't care whether you're shooting one with a rifle or shooting one with a dart. If there's 6 deer sitting there, when you hit the first one, the other 5 are gone. So
Not
logistically
always.
and time-wise, though, we're talking about darting 400 deer. How long is that going to take, and how are we going to accomplish that? And the second question, if you want to just roll into that answer, is since the 22 is a longer lasting, and you did a research project at FRIP, why can't we do the research project here as well, just to further tell you the efficacy of that medicine? Those are my 2 questions.
Okay, the first one, several points. At Hastings-on-Hudson, the issue of darting on private property was a big one, because 90% of the land there was private property. They had maybe 100 acres of public property there. So we got permission from individual landowners. What they did is they actually sent out a bunch of high school students with permission forms to ring doorbells. It would definitely I don't know how you would do it, but to not be able to dart on private property would be really difficult. But you're right, you can't do it without permission. We also dart on private property at Fripp. But I would urge you not to look for restrictions that you might be able to find solutions for. Let's see, what else? PZP 22, we've done all the work we need to do on that. Dr. Ruth, who I've actually known since before Fripp, because he wrote our permits for Fripp, has said that he wouldn't write another research permit because there's no point. The science is out there, it's been published. Certainly, we will work as fast as we can to make that available to communities, to get it, again, through the EPA and the South Carolina processes, but that's not like right around the corner.
What's it look like for you, do you think?
What's that?
What would approval look like for timeline, would you think?
It's the
Few months?
EPA.
Fair enough.
I suspect we could get an application into them within the next year, but it's working in our favor is it's much more benign than the stuff that they usually have to approve.
It's a fair answer. Things move slow enough around here. I can imagine what that looks like.
But it's an open question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Ruth, you said that Dr. Ruth would not want to write another research project.
Yeah.
But isn't this the first city that we're doing this in?
This is the first city that's ever tried to use it as a management tool. Yes.
And there's not a documented process for delivery
A documented process for delivery.
in a city.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
If
I mean,
we're-
Hastings-on-Hudson is way denser than Tega Cay.
But Hastings is in New York and you're in South Carolina now.
Yeah.
So where I'm getting at is the delivery process in a city. This will be the first city in the state of South Carolina that we're delivering PZP to. Do you think that we could talk to Dr. Ruth and maybe he could reconsider his no on writing a research project for us for the city? In fact, maybe give us a little help for some funding.
Well, especially given the amount of time that it might take to get it approved.
Well, that in itself and the time that we're willing to do as council and as citizens to generate this kind of process. And it would be helping DNR to put another arrow in their quiver for the future.
I can't speak for
No
Dr.
pun
Ruth.
intended.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just food for
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk to Dr. Ruth and see if he might be willing to recant that and help us with a delivery process. If we're going to work hard and put our dollars to developing that process so that everybody else can use it, that's research too.
That will be up to him
Okay.
to adjudicate.
Do we have an exact number on how many we should dart?
How many you should dart? What we're looking at, well, in the first year, you're not going to get all the does that you want because it just doesn't work like that. So if you could get between 100 and 200 your first year, you would see an impact. Again, you have to concentrate it in areas where there are a lot of deer, and then expand beyond that. And I've seen the surveys that have been done, but those are estimates and they're not really absolute numbers. They're sort of relative numbers. So in the absence of knowing how many deer you have, it's hard to sort of project. What it depends on is how many deer you have, how many fawns they tend to have every year, and how many deer die every year. And you actually, I guess, have some information on mortality, on how many of them die in a year, every year, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think we come better prepared than most cities as
you
far
do.
as a data collection goes.
Yeah.
And with that, in order to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do with taxpayer dollars, that metric needs to be captured, and we need to know what kind of goal to set before we go out. so that we can do that and the metrics would match. Last question for me. Is there a requirement of a veterinarian to be on site while delivering the darts? I know at Fripp, they have a full-time volunteer veterinarian.
We did not, actually. It was important when we were using controlled substances, but not for darting like this. There should be a veterinarian who's on call if there's an emergency, someone who you can contact. But in the 5 or 6 years that we worked on Hastings on Hudson, where we were actually capturing deer, we called them once. So, and again, if we're just darting deer and we're not capturing them, chances are there will not be any emergencies that require a vet's attention.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just have one. Do you have any experience or opinions on a combination type program where we're talking about the potential of culling and using PZP?
It hasn't been done before, and sometimes things don't get done just because people don't get around to it, but also sometimes things don't get done because they don't make a lot of sense. It makes sense numerically, right? If you want to get a fast reduction, you cull first and then you contracept the rest. But the deer are players here too, and so culling deer, number one, you get the dumb ones first, and then you have to spend your time trying to dart the smart ones. You get the easy ones first, and plus you have the issue that deer that are getting shot at just generally get much scarcer. So it's never been done. So I can't give you a definitive answer on that, but it's not a slam dunk that it's the smart thing to do, just because of the behavior of the deer.
That works. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. I just, two quick questions if I may. But first, I want to thank you and the Wildlife Conservation Society. This wasn't even an option. It wasn't on the radar. And these ladies here worked their butts off. And we take no credit for this. You got this approved in the state, and it's a great option. Thank you. So I just want to put that out there and thank you for working with them. So thank you very much. On our phone call, you had mentioned, I believe it was you, or maybe it was Dr. Ruth, if this is the way forward, we only do PCP, to actually see a significant decrease, we would need to, at some point, get to a percentage of does darted. Was it 60, 70? Like, I think it was 50 they would stay the same, and 60. I know it's ballpark, but
Right. It's all ballpark, but 50 to 70
is where you're looking.
You would definitely see something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my only other question was about the dosages. If you only get the doe with one dart, does it still have some effect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second booster helps, but
Well, the second booster makes a big difference.
Makes a big-
So,
okay.
you go from maybe 50% effective to 90+%
Okay.
effective with the booster. Yeah.
okay, so it's not a total waste then if you only get
Oh,
one
no,
dose.
no, no.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Rutberg.
All right.
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Okay, and at this point in time, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are in executive session. Folks, if we can get everyone's attention, we'll continue with the meeting. Folks,
It's those darn Shirley kids causing a ruckus over there. Welcome home, Blake.
Okay, we are out of executive session, which leads us to our next item on the agenda, which is public comments. If everyone please remember to state your name and your address when you take the podium, please. First up, we have Haley Roberts. And you have 3 minutes.
My name is Haley. I'm at 16144 Tana Circle. I'm the proud daughter and stepdaughter of Chris and Mayor Chris Gray. Sorry, I don't know. I'm about to cry. I have grown up here in Tega since I was about 5 years old, and I can tell you firsthand that this is not the Tega that I remember growing up in. Since I have been a resident here in Tega, I have had some amazing experiences here. I grew up playing on multiple different rec sports teams. I've enjoyed time at the lake, making a lot of really great family friends here. I even worked up at the Shore Club. Some of you may have known me when I worked there. But there's been some pretty rough memories the last couple years. For example, I'll share what happened today. I was getting in my car, super excited to go Christmas shopping, as everybody's ready for the holiday season. When I went to pull out of the driveway, a very kind woman decided to stick her hand out of the car and flip her middle finger to our home, telling us all, hey, I guess. At first, I was really, shocked. But then I started thinking about it, and I really wasn't shocked. I got angry. I just don't understand how people can continue to treat people so negatively. Because at the end of the day, even if you don't agree with somebody, we're all just people trying to make it to the next day. But after I really thought about it, I just felt really moved in my heart to do this and come talk to y'all. And I would really like to take the last little bit of my time to pray for everybody. Even if you're not a Christian, if you want to pray to whatever God you choose to worship. If you're not a Christian and you don't want to listen to what I have to say, you can cover your ears. I don't want to offend anybody by doing this, but I'm just doing what I feel in my heart that I've been strongly called to do today. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray that you touch the hearts of every single person in this community. Help one another to be kind and patient. Open our minds to those we may not agree with, and guide us into a better understanding of others' ideas. Let us not dwell in hatred and negativity. And lastly, I pray for peace over Tega and those who live in it. In your holy name, I pray, amen.
Thank you, Haley. Jen Thatcher.
Hi, guys. First, I'd like to say to Haley, I agree with you. This should not have gotten this far by any means. This is also not the Tega that I moved into a year and a half ago. But I'd really like to start by thanking Tom. We all appreciate you acknowledging the unfortunate events at last week's meeting.
Jen, can you just state your address for us, please?
Sure. Jennifer Thatcher, Chelsea Day Lane. I'm happy to give my number privately. I've received some threats, so I'd like to leave it at Chelsea Day Lane. So Tom, appreciate you coming forward and acknowledging the unfortunate events at last week's meeting, and for you and Carmen trying to offer solutions. Mayor, I would like to thank you for your comments last week. Do your research. It was directed at my passionate and intelligent neighbor, but it is really great advice. In fact, it's great advice for everybody here. Appraisals, construction bids, current surveys, marking lot lines, leaseholder details, impact on wildlife, possible zoning implications, and speaking with the neighbors. All great examples of research. All research I did before I bought my home, directly across from the lot that we're discussing. These were all things that were not done prior to council passing the ordinance 585 in September, handing over valuable land to a private business owner. Fortunately, Tega K residents did. We were paying attention, we did the research, we presented our concerns, we asked council to reevaluate the ordinance and rescind it. Finally, last week, we got some answers on some things, and the ordinance is being changed, which is a great start. We love that the other side of the road leading to the launch will remain city property. I guess we'll just have to hope that the launch itself remains open to the public. In the meantime, you guys are in a pickle now, and I feel bad for you. I honestly do. If you pass it, we lose the land and deal with whatever development might come. If you rescind it, we have to hope that Denton doesn't sue or completely close the ramp. To clarify, I don't think Denton's a bad guy. I love the marina. It's part of why we chose the house we did. I don't think his business is bad. It's not Denton's fault. The responsibility lies solely in this room. I don't think you guys are lying now. I don't think you were lying before. I think you didn't do your research. And bad decisions were made based on bad info. Where did that info come from? The list of discrepancies is long. It would take far more than 3 minutes. But saying that the launch has to stay open according to the marina lease.
No, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Your time has expired. Please take your seat so that we can continue the meeting. Thank you. Christy Harder.
Hello, I'm Christy Harder at 11137 Scholars Run. I chose to speak today as I'm one of the residents that was retaliated against by the Denton Group for voicing my concerns on their bad business behavior. Councilman Hislop mentioned this during the last meeting. To summarize, we had less than favorable experience when renting multiple boats with the Denton Group. After failing to reach an acceptable resolution with the Denton Group, my husband posted an unfavorable Google review, as many consumers do both positive and negative. As a result of posting such Google review about our boat rental experience, our slip lease was chosen not to be renewed by the marina. We had to sell our boat and our lift at rock bottom prices to vacate. This affected our daily life as Tega K residents. Based on my experience, I fear that there are 242 slip leasers who may be too afraid to voice their opinions, as the outcome of doing so may result in retaliation of the same manner, leaving them no place to store their boat. Additionally, by entrusting this entire project to a private entity with no obligation back to the city or the public, we would only be empowering the Marina Group further to impose their unethical business practices. Councilman Gus should be fluent on this situation, as I reached out to him hoping he could facilitate a mediation of sorts. Unfortunately, Gus was unable to do any conflict resolution because, I quote, Leroy is a private business owner. He pretty much owns every marina on this side of Lake Wylie, and Gus got nowhere with his conversation. Having voted for you, Gus, twice, I would hope that if you're not able to put the personal relationships aside for the betterment of one citizen, that you would recluse yourself on anything further and put your personal relationship interferes with the betterment of all citizens. Additionally, I like to speak about our youth. Moving here with my children felt like raising them in the movie Dirty Dancing, with this lake life and all that it has to offer. I can't tell you how many friends that weren't fortunate enough to have parents that live on the lake, but still lucky enough to have jet skis or a roundabout. The marina is the go-to for a taste of independence, being just down the street. Taking away a city-owned flow of traffic boat launch takes the rite of passage away from our teens. Teens who are already suffering from limited recreational activity options. Without that city-owned pull-through, not even the most experienced trailer driver could maneuver. Councilman Shirley, you and I may not share much in common, but unbeknownst to you, you actually towed our boat full of teens back to the marina for safety. Because that's what lake life is about, community. On the water, we are all family.
Thank you. Carl Schaefer.
Good evening. I'm Carl Schaefer, 1023 Bouncy Lane. For more than 10 years, the city has done little to control the exponential growth of the deer population. We are at approximately 10 times what the SCDNR recommends is a healthy deer population. Based on my research, many jurisdictions have determined that contraception alone is ineffective. As a standalone management strategy, contraception does not reduce overabundant deer populations. Therefore, a deer population should be at the desired level before initiating this technique. To increase success, shorten the time required, and reduce costs, lethal removal and contraception are typically recommended to be used together. I believe this combination could be taken to reduce the population. The overall downside to contraception is it'll be expensive. At $600 to $1,000 per doe per year, at half of our estimated deer population last year, that'd be $150,000. Then there'll be the ongoing maintenance previously described, because some forms of the contraception will require boosters. Culling the deer first will help reduce the cost in the long run. Using contraception alone, the deer population reduction will take a really long time. Implementing contraception will require long-term commitment. I've freed 5 deer from my fences. Not a particularly fun task with the deer flopping around. I hate to see any creature suffer. One of them died. The rest are mostly fine, injured, varying levels, abrasions and things like that. One had a broken leg and just flopped around everywhere. That's not an easy thing to do. A cull needs to happen so that contraception could be a more cost-effective and sustainable, and then it would also speed up this long overdue process. All the options are on the table. If nothing is done this winter and this spring, it will again be too late, and the can will have been kicked down the curb one more time. Let's make a decision and implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dodge Graham? Dan. Looks like a J, I'm sorry.
Dan Graham, 1785 Bentgrass. I've lived in Tega for the last 8 years, and my wife has been in the area for nearly 40 years. I'm here today because everyone agrees that the deer population is out of control and something needs to happen before someone gets seriously hurt. I did a little research on the topic and was amazed at some of the facts. Each year in the U.S., there are 1.5 million deer car accidents. Each year, 150 people die in deer car accidents. And each year, those accidents cause $1.5 billion in damages. That's a national scope. Now let's look here a little in South Carolina, a little closer to home. In 2022, the state of South Carolina had 6,400 deer car accidents. That's plus 40% versus prior year. So clearly, there's a lot of deer in South Carolina. Out of the 46 counties, York County is number 5 in the state with a total of 302 deer car accidents. And remember, that's reported. So I'm sure a lot of people hit deer and just keep on going. So we have got a lot more than 302 deer car accidents. And per the September 22 survey, Tega has 850 deer, or 1 per 1.8 acres. Recommended for healthy population is 1 per 15 acres, so clearly way overpopulated. Also per the DNR, the most effective way to reduce deer car accidents is through a regulated annual harvest. So what motivated me to speak here tonight? In the 8 years that I've lived in Tega, I've not hit a deer, but many, many times I've had to slam on my brakes to avoid that from happening. And most mornings, there's 10 or 12 deer sitting in our front yard. So over the years, we've spent lots of money on deer-resistant plants that get eaten down to the nub. Shame that we can't have a good-looking yard, not to mention all the deer poop that ends up that our daughter's dog loves to eat for some reason. And I'm really confused on why this is such a hot button issue in this community. Hunting is going on in every state, in every county, every year, all around us, and has for hundreds of years. If we finally move ahead with culling the massive deer herd that we have in Tega Cay, we'll still have deer in the community. We just won't have any starving deer looking to eat anything green. Also, the culled deer can be used to feed the homeless, I think, very effectively. And the other that we heard from the fine doctor here this morning about PZP, I think he mentioned he's been working with it since 1993. And it is almost 2024, and we are going to be the first city to implement it. That tells you something, in my mind. So the deer have no predators except cars and golf carts, so of course the population is going to continue to increase. In my opinion, the issue boils down to, do we care more about people being safe and avoiding expensive, deadly accidents, or the deer? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Ruthie Smith.
Hi again, guys. Ruthie Smith, 8039 Windjammer Drive. Before I get started, I want to clarify a few things. That culling has been going on for many, many years, and it is not effective. And in the state of South Carolina, where you can cull 80 deer maximum, and Tega Cay has a population of 1,060 deer, if you shoot and kill 80, and you have a reproduction rate of 20 to 24% with these healthy doe having twins, you are not going to decrease the population of the deer. You have to do something that is well-researched, studied, and implemented in other areas. And the only reason that the deer populations went back up on Fripp, Hastings-on-Hudson, Fire Island is because it was done under a research permit that was funded by private or humane societies, and then the research permits ran out. They didn't adopt it into policy. We already have a budget for wildlife management. Why not go with something? We have done all the work. We've gotten everything approved. It's been approved by the EPA. It's approved by Clemson. We just need to implement it, and we're going to help you guys along the way. The only thing that we haven't done is figured out how to get the people from the SCC from Montana down here to train and certified darters so that we can implement this program. You cannot keep shooting deer in a densely populated community like Tega Cay and have an effect. You can kill 80 deer, but then you're going to have another 200 born the next day. You have to do some sort of immunocontraceptive, and PZP is effective, and it is definitely affordable. And we can write out all of the estimates and give you a fine PO. We've already communicated this with the SCC out of Montana, including the darting guns, the PZP vaccine itself. We can mark out where we're going to position and have our darting stations. Each darting person will be in pairs. And as far as the safety, Dr. Rutberg didn't get to clarify this, but they have darted thousands and thousands of deer. Even on private property, they've not hit a house, they've not hit a tree, they have not hit anything, and it's not been a risk. It's not a security risk. It's a non-barbed dart, and it's shot 20 to 40 yards, so very close range. And again, it's heavily managed. You got 2 people, you got security around, and as far as like the documented processes, I think you guys ask about, if you read one of those resources that we have with Hastings-on-Hudson, they do have the processes written out, and the citizens that said, yes, please go on my property and dart, and then they secure the area and it's very safe. So I could go on and on.
Thank you, Ruthie. Steph Kessel.
Hi now. I am Stephanie. I live over on Little Riley Lane, and my background is a classroom teacher, like I shared last time, and my public health background helps me really try to approach this in a more holistic lens, in a way that allows us to think about prevention as well as long-term impact. And I think most of us here can agree that our community problem, one of our community problems, is actually that we have too many deer. And most of us can also agree that reducing the herd in the most effective, safest, and affordable way is the ideal win-win solution for everybody. So when we really remember to take that deep breath in, knowing we all want the same thing, we also need to remember other things, like we didn't get into this situation overnight. And that, as Haley heartfully reminded us, we're in this together, right? We don't need to keep tearing ourselves apart, getting twisted about, is it going to be 36,000 or 40,000? You're missing the point. The point is, what is going to get us to reduce the herd? Spending that extra money isn't so that we can save money now, isn't effective if it doesn't actually do what we need to do long term. So again, any deer management program that we need to do will be done yearly to be effective. And a decision about doing this now is not just about today and sort of like cooling the jets of everybody who's putting heat on council. It's also about thinking about the future of TGK. And so well before this group of councilmen were elected, past leaders made decisions on wildlife management and urban growth that have accelerated the wildlife and human conflicts that we're all feeling today in TGK. And there are many reasons why past councils have not committed to culling a sharpshooting killing program. And it is also telling that our leaders today, too, have been reluctant to move forward with spending tens of thousands of dollars of tax dollars, knowing the number of deer that is recommended to be killed for a significant drop in the herd is 200 to 300 deer. They also know that this large-scale shooting program will cost not tens of thousands of dollars, but hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars. They also know a killing program on this scale will likely include hijacking parts of the peninsula for weeks and months and will need to be repeated year after year. Our council is also very aware of the horror stories of loss of neighborhood kindness. I think I'd love to emphasize the idea of kindness right now, and the way that lawsuits and all of this sort of bickering tears communities apart. And that's especially when a sharpshooter program is pushed through before real community buy-in. Council also knows the decision to commit to a killing program is a choice. They have other options. Our councilmen know we have something so special here in TGK, and that the good life is not something to take for granted, and it's something we should cherish and protect, and really think about, again, not right now, but our future. Think about, that 5-year-old Haley that's standing here now. Like, that's not okay. It's not okay for people to show up flicking houses off. That's all I can say about that. It's not okay.
Thank you, Steph. Mary Eichert.
Hi, guys. Mary Eichert, 25015 Molokai Drive. First, I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Rutberg, for taking the time to come to our special little city and give us that well-informed, well-documented presentation. Your 30 years of work and devoted research speaks for itself, and we are so grateful for your continued commitment to helping solve urban deer and human conflicts within communities. Y'all, this man, we took him on a tour of TGK yesterday in a nor'easter. He had his binoculars. He got out in the rain. He looked around. I mean, this guy is in it to help us. He is devoted, and we just really appreciate him being here. If PZP is in TGK, Dr. Rutberg, you have mine and everyone on the TGK Wildlife Conservation Team 100% support and devotion to building a lasting and sustainable program that gets to the one thing we all want here in TGK, and that is a happy and healthy herd. And speaking of that happy and healthy herd, just like everyone else has said here, the last few comments, the urban deer do not get themselves into this situation on their own. And I'm not just talking about here in TGK. We have religiously continued to grow and build and take away their forests, their food, and their land. We suburbanized their historic habitat, then we built up humanity all around them, so they couldn't get out even if they wanted to. Everyone thinks the deer are the problem, when in essence, it's us. It's us humans. And speaking of us humans, there's a long-standing cultural mindset based on these long-standing traditions. In other words, the first option everyone wants to look at is what do you do when you have a lot of deer? Well, let's call them. Too many deer, we'll shoot them. Problem solved. Except the problem isn't solved, not long-term anyways. And compare this to the equivalent of mowing your yard. What happens when your grass grows? You cut your grass. What happens after that? It grows back. You got to cut it again. You got to cut it again and cut it again. It keeps growing back. If you cut the deer population by 80, or let's say 100, they're just going to grow right back at 20% a year in TKK. Killing is never one and done. It has to be repeated over and over. The only way to break this cycle is to hit it where it starts, and that is at reproduction. Culls are costly short-term fixes and does not break the cycle of new fawns being born. We can set the example of pioneering change, and isn't that what city leadership is all about? Find ways to look at something where the conversation is always the same and do something different, because nothing is going to change unless you do it differently. And I'm just jumping ahead because I wrote a lot of this stuff when I was mad, and I don't want to say it right now. But I'll end with this. I would like to leave you all with this. Jay Kirkpatrick, who was a former colleague of Dr. Rutberg's.
Thank you, Mary. Alicia Formato.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman. My name is Alicia Formato. I live at 25030 Riley Lane. And I have been deeply involved in researching alternative solutions for deer management in our community. And what I do know is this: we cannot kill our way to success. We must break the cycle of reproduction. A culling program is an annual killing program. It is not a one-time event. Culling 80 deer, which is the current DNR limit, yes, removes individuals, but it does not result in a population decrease. 80 deer is 8% of our herd of 1,000. We know on average that 150 deer are recovered by the city each year. That's another 15% reduction. Together, that's 23% that would be removed each year. That is slightly less than the 24% population increase that has been confirmed by the city spotlight surveys. Therefore, with the culling program, we are at a population flatline for an $80,000 price tag. Because remember, the cost of a sharpshooter plus meat processing, plus security, plus city workers' salaries to remove carcasses is approximately $1,000 a deer. That is an epic waste of tax dollars that could be spent on supporting our fire and police departments, maintaining roads and utilities, supporting community programs, and adding pickleball courts and a dog park. Landfolk Management, who performed our last spotlight survey, advised that to be effective with the culling program, we would need to kill 300 deer for the first 2 years, followed by prophylactic culling annually thereafter. If the city appeals to the SCDNR for an increase in the permit limit, in what world are we okay with spending $300,000? Furthermore, it has been well established in scientific research that quickly removing large numbers of animals results in a bounce-back effect because the sudden increase in resource availability translates to an increase in reproduction rates. Alternatively, we have the option of PZP. At Fripp Island, South Carolina, they saw a 50% reduction in 5 years. PZB is approved at the federal level by the EPA. It is now approved in the state of South Carolina. Thank you, Clemson. Thank you, Humane Society of the United States. We have Dr. Alan Rutberg, Global Authority on PZP use in white-tailed deer, here with us today to guide our efforts. We have the SCDNR willing to issue Tega a permit for PZP use. We have a budget to create a homegrown deer management program here in our community. And you, Mayor Gray, and the councilman had the exciting opportunity to use your leadership and authority to create public policy that will utilize this well-established science as a management tool. You have the opportunity to be leaders not just for this community, but for the many other golf course communities that struggle with human-deer conflicts. Tega could draw attention from outsiders because of success.
Thank you, Alicia. Rod Whitner.
Hey, my name is Rod Whitener, 1065 Goggin Lane. I want to preface this by saying that I don't know y'all, and y'all don't know me, but I am a concerned parent, and I am a concerned husband, and I am a concerned resident of Tega Cay. Everybody else has come up and talked about the deer, and I don't want to preach to the choir, because I'm sure that you guys know that this is an obvious issue. Whether or not we cull them or tranquilize them or whatever you want to do with them, I think that the solution needs to be quick rather than kick down the can, or the can kick down the road, as previous people have mentioned. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. You've got a lot of residents here that are not happy with the solutions because there's been no solution for the past couple of years, from what I understand. And the issue continues to get bigger and worse. I've already hit 2 deer in Fort Mill, 1 in Tega Cay, and killed it in my truck with my sleeping son in the car. He's 2.5 years old. If I had been driving my wife's car, that deer would have gone through the window and possibly killed me. If something had happened to me while driving with him in the car, this would have been a bigger situation. If that had happened to my wife, we'd be having a different conversation. So, I've been talking to a few neighbors, and it seems that due to the lack of results, people are starting to take things into their own hands. Okay? And that's much more of a liability to Tega Cay, I think, than the possibility of a sharpshooter maybe missing something and hitting a tree that they didn't aim for. And I'd really ask that you keep that in mind going forward. Okay? I don't know if it gave it away, but the big Cabela thing on my hat, I'm a hunter, so I'm pretty familiar with how deer behave. And I'm comfortable with people dealing with the deer however they may. I don't care if you have to cull them. I don't care if you have to reduce them by number. The info. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I gotta work my handwriting. Cliff Casburn? Okay. Pam Orsman?
Pam Orsburn, 8030 Windjammer. My questions are regarding Ordinance 585. When did the conversations with the marina owner and the city manager actually begin? At the August council meeting, it seemed that this was a recent ask of the marina owner, who, as it was stated, came to us requesting to take over the road and subsequently close it. Yet multiple land surveys dated August 2022 indicate this began at least a year and a half ago. Exhibit A, entitled Unused Roadway, dated August 2022, states, "The purpose of this plat is to convey a portion of Marina Drive public right-of-way to Tega Cay Marina." Exhibit B, Sidewalk Property, same date, same statement, shows the placement of the future sidewalk. Who ordered these? Why? And what have these and all subsequent surveys to date cost city taxpayers? Why does the marina owner, quote, desire to construct a sidewalk on its property and convey it to the city in full exchange, free, for a road, quote, no longer used by the general public? Why did council vote unanimously in August for a new business item they spent just 5 minutes discussing, if for the first time? How did council justify passing the second reading unanimously 1 month later after 49 seconds of discussion? Another ordinance already needed to fix the mess of 585 suggests that council conducted no due diligence on the topic to make an informed decision before approving unanimously giving away a public road, with the only knowledge at the time being the intent of the marina owner to close it. Why does the city desire to give away a valuable piece of real estate in exchange for a proposed sidewalk when the Marina Overlay District's General Development Standards, Section 19, states pedestrian connectivity is required? Sidewalks are required along streets and at a minimum must be provided at the front of all buildings to connect with the public sidewalk. Does this not mean that the marina owner will have to build this sidewalk irregardless as a condition of developing his commercial property sitting on this exact parcel? Or is this exchange to facilitate his parcels becoming contiguous and ripe for mixed development? Why would the city not sell this piece of real estate when adjacent land recently sold for $163,000 per acre, valuing this .366 acre public right-of-way at approximately $60,000? If this were a true necessity, wouldn't selling it on the open market for $60,000 seem far better stewardship than giving it away? In consideration of the fact that these discussions have been ongoing with the marina in private for an undetermined time, for an undisclosed reason, and undisclosed to the citizens, I request that Ordinance 585 be rescinded in full due to the non-disclosure of facts.
Thank you, ma'am. Michael Rashid.
Michael Rashid, 28003 Marina Drive. This fall, City Council entered into an agreement, an unprecedented agreement, with a private entity to give a road away in exchange for a sidewalk. You didn't ask the right questions. You didn't ask, how much is this piece of property worth to a current or future developer? Did we want a sidewalk? Did we need a sidewalk? Because you didn't ask the right questions, we're now saddled with an agreement that we can't back out of. And because you didn't ask the right questions then, are you asking the right questions about a hotel? Just this week, council and the city told the Rock Hill Herald that the idea of a hotel is just an idea, that there's no hotel being planned for the future. Yet, in October, the Planning Commission was asked to increase the size of the hotel from 65 units to 100 units. That tells me that the idea has progressed beyond an idea and now is in discussion. Have you even authorized a survey to figure out if the city can support a hotel? And if so, how big? And what kind of hotel? Are we talking Holiday Inn or Hilton? Or are we talking about something more like a Club Wyndham timeshare property? As our elected representatives, it's your job to ensure that every eventuality is considered. As citizens, the people who call Tega home, we can expect not to have any more surprises from you.
Thank you, sir. Christoph Halverson.
Christoph Halverson, 8026 Windjammer. Scott missed me, so I thought I should come speak. You guys sure must enjoy the excitement you're having at these meetings, because I remember years when there was no excitement like this. But you guys have to be getting a little bit sick of having people like me up here ranting at you. If you're rolling around in something that smells funny, don't get mad when people call you out for it stinking. Thank you. You have no right to be mad at residents when you screw up. Take some accountability and try to do the right thing. You have no right to sit up there and whine about people going on social media when that's the only way to get your attention, to tell them the truth. You've got a marina district, which you lied about, and you told us was supposedly a ploy by a city council candidate, Have you apologized to him for that lie? Because clearly that's not the truth, if we're still talking about it. You've got a private soccer club making a boatload of cash that never went out to a public bid. You've increased our garbage and recycling prices while decreasing our service quality. You've gone around in so many circles on positions with the deer that the deer are sick of hearing about it. And I'm glad you're really worried about the budget with the deer, because that didn't matter when it came to Gus spending 10 grand on an art project with his buddy that went through no formal RFP process, didn't even follow the art purchasing process that Gus and Ryan signed themselves, so they should be familiar with that law that they broke. It's just like, when does it end? Like, all you have to do to have me not ranting here is don't do things that smell funny. You guys know what's right and wrong. You let some residents stand up here and speak as long as they please, while you have other residents like Elizabeth Duda escorted out by the police the second they run out of time. It shows whose voices you want to hear. You got money missing from the Tega Forever Foundation and had to shut it down because of the foundation altogether. Where'd that money go? You never spoke to that. You got Scott Shirley telling the county that he's going to sue our library system and our school board, which is one of the best in the states. No accountability there, and he said that you guys backed him on it. And now, in order to run out the rest of the time, I'm going to finish some of Jen Thatcher's speech. Discrepancies include incorrect info about the lease staying open for the marina, who owned about the 570 line, what he wants to develop on the land. You know, why do you even have people sitting in meetings with you, recording them secretly? Like, are you hoping to get a Netflix special out of this or something when something really bad happens that gets you in jail? Like, when is it going to stop? Like, it's just ridiculous. You guys are accountable for each other. That's it. I wanted to run out the time.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Ross.
Ryan Ross, 85 Corbell Way. Mr. Mayor, council members, and future council members I see are here as well. I want to take a moment. Haley kind of touched me a bit, and I want to take a moment, and most people don't know this, some of you do. 5 years ago, as of 2 days ago, I got hit by a drunk driver coming home into Tega on a Sunday. It was her third DUI. She was a resident here. I ended up with 9 broken bones. I was in the trauma center for 3 days. That's the Tega I miss. I came home for a month straight. I'm going to continue on. For a month straight, there was a meal train of food brought to my house. It was everyone from Alicia Dash to everyone else that was part of council at that time. Everyone, I had no clue who they were, showed up at my house with food. I didn't know anybody. I've had incidences where I needed to borrow a trailer for the church. Scott offered me to borrow one. It's everyone's helped everybody. And one of the things that most of you know, I am the Planning Commission chairman. I'm not here in an official capacity, but I got involved in public service because I wanted to make the place better. I wanted all of us to be able to do things as a group. I don't agree with everyone politically. I don't ever give public comments, honestly, because I try to separate what I feel publicly, my Planning Commission position, and what happens here in these meetings, I try to separate. But then when we have situations where it was a topic item for the hotel expansion for us to look at 65 rooms to 100 rooms, and you stand up here and lambast Adam Graybeck that he's doing it for political gain and it's not even a realistic item. Yet it came to our committee. That's unfortunate and makes it so no one ever wants to run for city council. I'm not saying he was the best person to run. I'm not saying that he was going to win, but he's still a Planning Commission member. We had our meeting last Monday, and he had to show up to that meeting after you lambasted him in a council meeting and still have yet to apologize for it. And we're supposed to get people to want to volunteer for city positions. We have Boza with open recs out for it. We have all these, Tega Forever Foundation couldn't get an entire committee together. We have all these groups that won't get enough volunteers because we have situations like this. And I'm just wondering, what have we come to as a city? It's like, do better, people. Do I agree with everything that I see on Facebook? No, not at all. But does Liz Duda have great things that she brings up at times? She does. And the best place for her to bring them up is on her Facebook page because it's the only place they'll get visibility. And I think the struggle is we've lost that sense of community. If you make a mistake, own up to it. It's an okay thing. Hey, my bad. I thought it was this. It wasn't. I apologize. I'll do better next time. But until we start taking personal accountability for our actions and what we do, we're never going to get better, and the divide's just going to get worse. I invite everybody to our Planning Commission meetings. Some of you have been there. The new council members have been there. I appreciate.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. I'd also like to take a minute to thank you, Mr. Ross, for your service on the Planning Commission, and to each one of our folks that volunteer their time to serve on committees for TEK. It is a great help to us and to all of the city, what you do. So thank you very much. Steve Gregson.
Good evening. My name is Steve Gregson. I live at, or reside at 1608 Heron Run Drive. I want to thank you, Mayor, and Council, and the staff for all the due diligence and work you've put in on this deer issue, especially being very patient with us citizens. I also like to thank you all for taking the time to look at the cost analysis and the PowerPoint that I provided to you all this past week, and I really appreciate the feedback I was received from that. I think that just kind of shows, as I shared with a copy of that tonight with the young ladies over here, I think that's where we can get things done better, to have better information collectively brought together, and so that we can work on fact-based issues. Tonight's the first night I've heard from the doctor, and thank you, doctor, for coming down from the great north, that we're talking about darting possibly 100 to 200. I've never heard an exact number, so that at least we can work with that number to have a better understanding of that. I feel that there have been a lot of numbers that have not been supported by the experts, and feel that this is important not to favor either protocol, but to have credible facts and cost analysis that will help us all make good decisions, especially you all. I've tried my best to provide you, and office provided, as I said earlier, to the Conservation Society. I'm open to any suggestions or correct any errors that need to be addressed with that. I also want to thank you for the efforts of many citizens, the groups, the experts that have given the input and their time. One of my concerns is I feel that there's not been enough detailed protocols or procedures shared for the darting, and I'm glad to hear some more of that tonight, but I have other questions. I've been given a white paper on the wound management issue that has been an issue with other darting research programs, and I would like to provide that to you all as well with that, since the doctor said tonight that he did not feel that was an issue with his researches or research studies. What the other concern is that somewhat has been answered tonight, is what's going to happen with the darts. Using a barbless dart at the same time. My wife recently reminded me, you can't even find your golf ball in the woods. How are you going to find a dart? But the question is, how did she know that I hit a golf ball in the woods? I like to know who told on me. When I feel one gets down to the factual costs and use the actual studies that are not under research conditions, but then the analysis is pretty simple. I do want to be a part of a community that is first, but I regress to mention the failures in research with University of Florida and University of Missouri that did take products from the EPA for the first time, and they failed miserably. So I think that we should take time to really look at this. In closing, the number one conservationists in North America are hunters for well over 200 years. That is a fact not disputed by none. I feel that other citizens have been patient long enough and tremendous.
Thank you, Steve. And that concludes our public comments. Everybody good? Anybody need a break? Okay. I'll bring it to our approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Additions, deletions, subtractions? All in favor say aye. Aye. The motion carries. And that will bring us to our committee reports. If you would, Councilman Matchunis, please take it away with our Economic Development Commission.
All right, the EDC met on the 27th of November at 7 o'clock. There was a quorum. Unfinished business, first topic of discussion was business surveys that were sent out. They were sent out to about 70 companies, only 5 responses so far, so they were going to send them back out again. But the common trends that they were seeing from the survey were taxes, help with public relations and social media. And the chamber has a great social media coaching. There was a discussion about finding a way as we grow more businesses, especially with Main Street coming on board, to find a way to balance the city's revenue with its expenses and reduce some of those fees to the businesses. Beginning discussions on tax incentives for new businesses, how would that happen? And of course, the legalities of it, rebates on business license. We're going to have a discussion with the developers of Main Street about where they stand with recruiting people to come in, and also a discussion with Mark at the chamber about their social media person coming in to show step by step what they were doing. And there was a discussion about we've had many discussions about monetizing Catawba Park, and there was a discussion about a Christmas festival that they had down at Myrtle Beach, and seeing if that could somehow be done here at Catawba Park next Christmas. And that's it for the EDC.
Thank you, sir. Planning Commission, Councilman Shirley.
Yes, sir. The Planning Commission met on December 4th. They did have a quorum. After approving the minutes from previous meetings, they had a discussion of potential amendment of zoning code to remove the hotel from the permitting process in the Marina Overlay District. They're looking for some direction from council on this. And I don't speak for all of council, but it'd be my recommendation that we give them guidance to remove that, to remove the hotel from the overlay district, maybe even the whole overlay district. So we should discuss that moving forward. They also discussed consideration of approving the Windell Woods Phase 1 Map 2 final plat, removing River Falls Phase 1 Map 1 final plat, and they discussed their meeting dates for the upcoming year for '24.
Thank you, Councilman Shirley. Mayor Pro Tem Heisler, if you would please, the TK Forever Foundation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. TK Forever met on December 4th. They did have a quorum. This was their final meeting as they are in the winding up process. Chairwoman Jones has worked with Bob at the city staff to turn in the final reports to the IRS, the 990N, and as well to the Attorney General in the state and the Secretary of State here in the state. And there will be no more meetings of TK Forever. They will finish up the final paperwork, and as part of that, I just want to thank everyone who did serve in the past and present. I know the current members who stepped forward. They finally had enough members. It's been a challenge. It was a great idea that sprung right before COVID. Like a lot of COVID stuff, a lot of members couldn't attend. They weren't able to get quorums. They finally were able to get some, and they made the tough decision that the fundraising at this time just was too hard to raise money. And so it met its purpose. It helped get Catawba Park open. And I thank everyone who did participate over the years. I've just been the council liaison for the last 6 months. And I just wanted to thank them for their service. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. With that, we will move to some unfinished business. This is the second reading of an amendment to the zoning code as it relates to the mobile food vending services. As stated, this is the second and final reading of an amendment to the zoning code as it relates to the mobile food vending services. A code update is necessary to provide a more clear and flexible regulation pertaining to the duration and location requirements for the operation of food trucks. This update creates language that is easily understandable and enforceable for both city staff and for mobile food vendors. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the second reading of an amendment to the zoning code as it relates to mobile food vending services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just say I think you covered it well last month. This is just to allow food trucks to be able to set up in places like the Lake Ridge HOA facility, even though it's too, in the current zoning is too close to the houses. They'll be able to actually go there, set up for the day for a festival and leave. And that's it.
I think it does a good job of encouraging small business in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you to staff for working through that. Nick and his team did a good job of putting that together. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Well, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to the second reading of an ordinance to amend Article 11, Division 1, Section 34-121, Ordinance 70A, Section 70.14.06 of the city's code as it relates to the discharge of firearms and firearm-like devices to allow for exceptions pertaining to the control of wildlife by the city. The second and final reading of its ordinance to amend the city's code of ordinances related to the discharge the discharge of firearms and firearm-like devices, including but not limited to the air propellant guns. This amendment, if approved, would permit council by a majority vote and on a case-by-case basis to grant exceptions of the use of firearms solely with regards to the control of wildlife. Basically, this is going to allow us to either dart or cull the herd. We have to amend the city ordinance in order to do so and to provide a way to where we could do either or. So, gentlemen, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend Article 6, Division 1, Section 34-121, Ordinance 70A, Section 70.14.16 of the city's code as it relates to the discharge of firearms and firearm-like devices to allow for exceptions pertaining to control of wildlife by the city.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Just need to correct, it was 06, not 16.
14.06?
Yep.
Thank you.
I think you summed it up pretty good, Mr. Mayor. I mean, whatever path the city chooses now or in the future, without this, nobody can discharge any type of firearm, whether it's a rifle or an air device for PCP.
Mm-hmm. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That will bring us to a discussion and consideration of an agreement with the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services / Wildlife Services. Before council considers entering into an agreement with the USDA, staff has put together a cost analysis comparing what culling would potentially look like in the first year and what utilizing Zonastat-D, otherwise commonly referred to as PZP, would potentially look like in the first year. So before entertaining any motions or having any further discussion, I'd like to turn things over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm actually going to turn things over to our deputy manager, Joey Blethen, who has spent a good bit of time researching, having conversations with the SEC as relates to PZP and putting together cost analysis on that, as well as the culling side of things. So I'll turn it over to Joey at this time.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thanks for having me. As Charlie mentioned, I've kind of been tasked with trying to give you as accurate numbers as possible. I know over the last few months we've talked about estimates, and we've tried to narrow that down a little bit to help you out with your decision. So I'd like to first thank Kimberly Frank with the Science and Conservation Center. She was a great resource in helping pull all the information for estimated costs for PCB. The first slide that we have here is training. Training can be conducted in person in Billings, Montana once a month, or we can schedule a trainer to come out to our area. That would require a 6-person minimum or an 8-person maximum. For the sake of this estimate, we evaluated at 8 staff members taking this training at $350 per staff member. $1,000 training fee, and then guesstimating $1,500 for the travel costs for the trainer, room and board, all that good stuff, for a total of $5,300. Okay. And it's not working. This is why they don't let me speak.
Did you check the batteries before you started clicking?
I did not. I was more
Number
worried
one
about
rule,
the batteries
Joyce.
for the remote for public comments. Hey, there
Number
we go.
one rule.
So next part of that's the equipment. Once again, factoring in 8 members as the people carrying out the administration of the PZP. We were first given a number, guesstimate of 480 doses of PZP. So that's what we based it off of, but based off of conversations tonight, maybe that number gets reduced down to 200, which obviously impacts the price. You're looking at $28.95 per rifle. And once again, this is all information I pulled from Kimberly. She gave me a couple websites that we could look for this type of stuff. The dart and the needle are sold separately, so packaged together, you're looking at $25 per dart needle. And then the doses, which is approximately $25 a dose. So your upfront year one cost for just the equipment and the doses, you're looking at $47,160. Obviously, that number can vary based off of the actual doses administered. There's also some other things that Charlie will get into with the keeping and the mixing of the doses and so on and so forth. So staffing, this is obviously the largest variable. This is just a guesstimate that we put together on how many man hours it would take to actually administer it. Once again, factoring in the 8 staff members with the 480 doses, our off-duty officer rate is $50 an hour. So grand total of 21 days of darting at 5 hours per day leads us to 840 hours and a total of $42,000. This is as best as we can get to kind of putting it together. That number can obviously fluctuate depending on how long or how efficient we are in the darting process. So next slide shows the USDA contract that we got for culling 80 deer. There's a couple things in there I'd like to clarify a little more. A lot of them are straightforward, like compensation, travel, so on and so forth. But I did want to touch base a little bit on pooled job costs and the indirect costs. Those numbers that you receive are percentages off of the total, the subtotal that we received. And as it was explained to me is that there's fees that's administered for staff time that's not actually involved in the culling, supervision of it, tracking, and then the agency actually takes a portion of that as well. So that's where your indirect and pooled job costs come from. But total contract for 80 deer would be $47,000. The staff time with this, something obviously we worked on staff as a guesstimate, working with Chief Crosby with this as well, but anticipating 6 off-duty officers to help secure the various sites throughout the city. During this process at $50 an hour, you're looking at 324 total hours with a total of 16,200. And the last slide shows a comparison, and this is just year one. Obviously, if we were to go into a PZP program, you would have reduction of training costs, assuming that the staff that was trained stay along, rifle, so on and so forth. So you will have some savings there. But strictly 1 year based off of the one big variable that's staff hours, we came at 94,460 for 480 doses of PZP, and then $63,327.55 for 80 deer. The other notes that's on the slides, obviously the time frame that we'd have to carry out the permit for the culling before March 1st. The city's also petitioned, I believe January 18th is when we have an appeal to potentially cull 160 if that's the direction of council. And then on top of that, if we were to administer a PZP program, we'd be looking at sometime in early to late spring to start administering that. So any questions regarding the cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Joey, I missed the total on the slide under the PZP for staffing. I think it was one of the last slides.
It was approximately $42,000 to $46,000 off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. And with the PZP, is the cost figured into that for the second dose?
Approximately, yes, because it's a flat rate of 480 doses. So however you want to administer that, whether it's
200 and 200.
just shotgun approach, all 480, or whether it's 240, it's however you look at it.
So,
obviously, as they discussed with tagging and stuff like that, that would come at a much exorbitant cost.
Would the staffing cost change with that second dose?
It's just based strictly off of 480, regardless of the doses administered.
So if we darted 480 with the initial dose.
So in a hypothetical, let's say under this hypothetical, if we have 480 total under this scenario, it would be 240 and 240.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Joey? All right, so
thank you, Joey.
To bring y'all to your discussion, there was a gentleman last month, and I know there's probably been others, through the community. What if council decides to call? What does that look like? So we had the folks from the USDA come in and meet with Chief Crosby and myself, and Tim Gillette, our operations director, and walk us through this process. What does this look like if we do an agreement with you guys? Basically, what they would do is come in initially and set up bait stations. They would go around with Chief Police, Tim Gillette. We've already identified some areas. They would go out with them, look at those areas, and then determine if that's where they're going to set up their baits, their feed stations, bait stations, as they refer to them. They monitor those stations for up to 2 weeks with cellular data cameras, so that they can see, how many deer are coming in. Is this a good spot? Is it not a good spot? Once they've gone through that, they would come in with a 6-person team, all of which are trained sharpshooters using .223 rounds with silencers, night vision, and thermal imaging. They would be shooting primarily, if not consistently, in low-lying areas where the bait stations would be, and they would be in elevated deer stands, so the trajectory is always downward towards the ground. They've done this in a lot of communities, both in South Carolina and in Georgia. They are used to doing this in densely populated areas. They're with the USDA, it's a federal government agency, and this branch of it, the APHIS-WS, this is what they do. This is what they are contracted to do, whether it's with deer or other types of animals, wildlife, and things like that. They even said that for approximately $300,000 a year, they could put 2 people on staff if we gave them office space and have them here year-round. Just making you all aware of the conversation. So that would be the timing or the scope, if you will, of the operation. The only staff involvement we would have would be on from a law enforcement standpoint, making sure that our areas are safe and secure, in addition to handling any interrupters, if you will, and addressing those type things. I believe we're looking at 6 total officers, in doing those off-duty hours. So that's kind of the process, if you will. Concerns, if you will, concerns is probably the wrong word. With PZP, right? So we've got the label that was approved by Clemson. I do appreciate something Dr. Rutberg said, that we shouldn't be concerned about the things that we don't know yet, because there's training involved and things of that nature. One thing that really kind of jumped out at us as we read it was the mixing of the doses. Maybe this gets covered in the training if this is the direction we go, whether it's now or sometime in the future. But you're having to use a solution, a mixing solution, if you will, with the PZP, and you've got to attach the syringes together, and they've got to be plunged back and forth, according to the label, 100 times, right? The PZP has to remain frozen. We've got to keep it frozen. It's only good for 24 hours once it's not frozen. The solution refrigerated. It's a lot of moving parts. I mean, it definitely is. Now, after 3 days of training with the folks from the SEC, I would imagine a lot of that gets covered with the staff that would be tasked with doing the darting. So it's not just a simple buy the dose, stick it in a dart, and shoot it through a air propellant gun. There's mixing involved, there's storage of the chemicals and things like that. Again, not trying to say that none of those things are that we can't overcome those things, figure those things out and make it work. Just making you aware that it's not just a simple, hey, here's the PZP, go shoot darts. There is a good bit more involved with that. But again, like I said, with the training, yeah, I'm sure that's stuff they cover. If this is the route council wants to go, what we would be using is off-duty police officers, just for safety and security, not to just have some person out there in a safety vest running around or things like that. We would look to use our police officers, have them train in order to do this. So that just more or less explains the two processes. Thank you to Joey for putting together numbers for us. As he did state, previously we were hearing numbers of 480, and that's why we used that number. Tonight we're hearing 100 to 200, so that cost does come down. At least as far as the number of doses and things like that. But again, if you use the 480, you would also be including your second dose. That I would imagine, like Joey said, if darting is the way we're going, we would do that in early spring. I would think probably March, April timeframe, with a second dose before the next rut. So probably September, early October timeframe on that second dose to get that in. But that's just what our plans are right now, depending on which way council wants to go with this. So Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you and council for further discussion.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Joey. Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, Wildlife Services, and authorize the city manager to proceed in executing all necessary documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second with discussion.
I have a second with discussion.
And again, my 2 cents, Gus and I are out of here in a couple of weeks, but, obviously we owe something to the citizens. We've done the research, and these guys have done a great job on the PZP side. It's of my opinion, and that's just mine, that some type of combination program would be the best fit for the city. Again, just my opinion. Because while we could talk about, okay, it's 80 deer, are they pregnant or not? We don't know how many does or, how many fawns are inside the does while we're doing all this, how many deer run off the peninsula once they have a threat. The 200, 180, 200 a year on average that we pull off of natural deaths. I just think the numbers could be skewed so many different ways, but in my opinion, and it's just that, I think a combination of the two would get us going in the right direction. Whether we would call again next year or see some benefits from PZP and then make that decision then. But I do believe personally that something has to be done now. in my opinion, and I'll shut up.
Thank you, Councilman Richard.
So I'll probably spring off of your comment, Councilman Richard. I would agree that a combination of what's before us, what we've researched, is probably a good solution. For the benefit of the residents, those watching, those listening, those that are here, comments have been made. Why we've been kicking this can down the road? This has been an overpopulation of deer for probably 15 years in TKK, and I think I'm probably accurate. I make a liar out of me for a year or two, but it's been about that. And this council, to their credit, has accepted the challenge of taking some action on this. It hadn't been easy. Trust me, it hasn't. And a tremendous amount of hours have gone into the research with our residents that have contributed to that. Multiple residents have contributed to that, staff and council. Just for folks' benefit, and Charlie, I think you did a good job of summing up what it would look like if we did cull the deer. But if we do that, if we vote on that tonight, giving people the peace of mind that no one's walking around in anybody's backyard with an AR-15 shooting deer. And that's not anywhere close to what that would look like. And I appreciate you giving us a little assurance on that, that would be in very controlled areas where no one would have access to it. It would be controlled by law enforcement, and the public safety is going to be the number one factor there.
On both. It sounded like public safety on both darting or culling.
That's correct. On both, that's correct. Yes. Although I agree with Dr. Rutberg, there's probably an argument for getting permission from residents for darting in backyards, because I can tell you I can't count how many deer are in my backyard, and I'd be okay darting them back there all day long. So that's a discussion maybe for another time. But that said, before I'm comfortable making a vote, I've got a couple questions, and maybe this is for Joey. You talk about staff being trained. So tell me what that means. Is that city staff? Is that our employees? Who are we training? Would you help me with that?
Yes, on the darting side of things, what we envisioned was using those training days, training hours, having the SEC folks come in, and they would be training our staff, and it would be members of our law enforcement staff.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the clarity on that. I'm just, we're technically city employees, and I really don't want to do it. So I was hoping you weren't going to volunteer me. Continued training. This, say, 8 staff members that we train, are they going to need continued training next year or the following year?
It's our understanding that no, they would be trained on how to do it, and then those would be the people that we would look to. Tim has also researched with Clemson. It does require a specific pesticide license, but people can operate under that person's license. So because Tim does have a pesticide license, we'd probably look for him to get that next level or that other certificate, however you say it. But they could actually administer those darts under his license as part of that. Similar as we have people, we've got a couple people that are pesticide licensed, and we have folks that are spraying Roundup. Yeah, it's not the same thing, but yeah, under that same type premise.
And we're not limited time of year when we could do the darting, right?
According to Dr. Ruth, there is no limit. There is no.
We can do it every quarter.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no limit on the number.
Okay.
As far as how many we could dart. That's correct.
I would recommend that we need an immediate reduction in the population, and I'm probably going to recommend to my colleagues that we do deploy a culling process and continue to pursue the PZP process. That's all I've got.
Real quickly, I love the idea of the PCP and the work the Wildlife Association did. Society. I was calling it association. My apologies. And with that, though, my concern is if we go that route right now, there won't be any reduction potentially till next year. So hesitantly, I agree with Councilman Shirley, that I believe that, well, the culling was not my first choice. It could potentially, we could start calling now, keep doing the PZP, get the PZP in action, and eventually, hopefully, stop calling and go exclusively to PZP. But the combination in the beginning, I think, would get us to a better place quickly, and then get into a management position where we could only use PZP. So that, that's it. We got no questions.
Real quick. Some months back, when the TKK Wildlife Conservation Group Society, whatever, was formed, you said what you were going to do and find alternatives. I was extremely skeptical that you could pull it off, and I congratulate you all. What you did in a very short period of time was quite incredible, and you opened all our eyes to something different, because we basically thought we had one option and one option only. So whichever way the vote goes tonight, I cannot imagine, Ryan and I will be gone, but I cannot imagine that PZP will not be administered in some way, shape, or form. And I just want y'all to know that. And what you've done was appreciated much by me, and I think by everybody up here. And I think you should all be very proud of yourselves.
Okay, well, I've got several issues. One, I love the PZP idea. It is, I think it's going to be a revolutionary action that we can take. I appreciate all the hard work that you all have done. Alicia, Mary, Steph, Ruthie, and Dr. Rutberg, thank you for taking your time and your efforts to contribute to the community in a positive way. I appreciate you. I think we've got some work to do. I think that that this could be the sustainable way to go forward as far as PZP. I'd like to see us wait for a minute to get the longer version of PZP, the PZP 22, so that we have more time. As far as when we spend our money, we get more out of our buck. No pun intended. As far as the length of time that it would take to have to administer more of the drug to the deer, I think we've got a lot of strategical methods that we're going to have to work out as far as how do we dart these things, how many do we need to dart, and that's going to take time to develop that program, and it'll be a trial and error based program that we're going to have to work together on. But I think that what you ladies have done, Dr. Rutberg, what everyone has done here is we've shown everybody in TKK that we all can work together. We all can come up with a viable solution for TKK. And we can do it our way and do it together. With that being said, I don't think that the program at this point in time is 100% rollout ready. I think that we've got some time. And the good news is the most optimum time to apply the PZP would be the spring, summer, after the fawns have dropped, and that would be the most optimum time. Right now is not the optimum time to do that. And in my opinion, I think we'd be wasting money going through and trying to dart deer that have already been impregnated. Now, we could get a year maybe out of that dose and that booster dose. We don't really know for a fact that we would. But in that, I think moving forward, PZP would be a good alternative for us as far as not culling the deer, but going forward with the PZP. Unfortunately, at this point in time, that program is not together. So with that, I think that we have to go into a hybrid approach at this point in time in order to not kick the can down the road even further. Our deer, I wake up every morning to 20 or 30 deer walking in my backyard. My pets too are fond of the deer poo.
Raisinets?
It's a problem. The health of my animals are very concerning to me, as well as the health of everyone else's animals in TKK, and I don't think it's too healthy for them to be eating poo. At least that's what my vet said. So, with that, I think that it's a sustainable option for us moving in the future. But right now, we're just not there, and I would encourage everyone, let's work together, let's work hard to make it happen. But I don't think we're there right now. So in that.
You have a motion and a second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And that would bring us to some new business. Consideration of the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement and letter of credit for Phase 1, Map 2 of Windell Woods. Shane Holmes has requested to move forward with their final plat for Phase 1, Map 2 of Windell Woods. In order to do this, they have requested to enter into a PLM surety agreement with the city along with a letter of credit for the remaining infrastructure contained in Phase 1, Map 2 plat. That infrastructure includes the final lift of asphalt for the roads, along with the sidewalks and street trees. The Map 2 section of Phase 1 is on the east side of Gardendale Road and contains single-family carriage homes only.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement and letter of credit for Phase 1, Map 2, Windell Woods, contingent upon the city attorney's review and approval.
Second with the discussion.
Have a motion with discussion. Let's discuss.
I'm okay approving it. If you'll remember, a few months back, we found out through the Planning Commission that the developer was not able to complete the trail to the schools as originally identified, that would be part of this project. I'm wondering if we can, since this is a infrastructure approval for infrastructure, I'm wondering if there is an appropriate way to shift the resources that would have gone to that trail, if it's impossible, to create an equal value of that trail for something else that might be beneficial to the community. Is that appropriate to discuss that here, or is that something for Planning Commission?
So at a prior Planning Commission meeting, when that was discussed, I was actually filling in for Susan Britt, and I think we discussed that they are adding an additional amenity, a play area that can actually service not only the Windell Woods community, but also the Lake Ridge community on the eastern side of Gardendale. And Planning Commission approved that change at that particular time. Now, as far as the other trails and things that they do have to install, they have to install those by the time they're, I believe in the PDD is at 70%. So that'll be stuff that we'll be looking at in future phases that would come before council as far as making sure they are part of that, that PLM as well as the LOC.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Charlie, what's the temperature of the folks for as far as getting those trails done? Would it be possible to ask them to get those trails done a little bit ahead of schedule?
We can definitely have the conversation with them, yes, sir.
I mean, it seems to me that it's asphalt and it's a little bit of grading. We're not putting surface down, so we don't need 52 and rising. We're putting a trail down, so
Right.
we're not building a road.
Yes, sir.
So as asphalt, when you lay asphalt, you got to have 52 and rising to do that. So
Right.
we're just doing a trail.
Yes, sir.
Possibly.
Yeah,
if we
I
could open up
don't
that-
disagree with you.
If we could open that up, that would be, because a lot of concerns that citizens have is, we don't have a lot of sidewalks over there along Gardendale Road. They don't have a lot of ways to access Catawba Park from that area.
Understood.
Especially folks with Stonecrest. So I'd like to.
We'll definitely have those
see what we can do.
conversations with Shay Holmes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, do you have any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the performance, labor, and materials surety agreement
already did
and
that.
letter of credit.
We have a
Do we already
motion
do
and a
it?
second.
We already did that.
I'm just doing it again then.
Good effort, though.
We have
I
a
like
motion
you
and a
that.
second, but
You sounded good
I like
doing
your
it.
enthusiasm.
So I asked the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Can,
carries unanimously.
can the
You do the
record
next
show
one.
that Councilman Heislip had a third?
Can y'all let Councilman Heisler?
Glad you're in agreement.
Okay, this is a consideration of the Performance Labor and Materials Surety Agreement and Letter of Credit for Phase 1, Map 1, River Falls. Taylor Morrison has requested to move forward with their final plat for Phase 1, Map 1 of River Falls. In order to do this, they have requested to enter into a PLM surety agreement with the city and have provided a check for the remaining infrastructure contained in Phase 1, Map 1 plat. That infrastructure includes the final lift of asphalt for the roads, along with sidewalks, streets, trees. The Map 1 section of Phase 1 is the east side of the property closest to Gold Hill Road and contains single-family detached homes only. Gentlemen, do I have a motion?
Tom?
You do.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve performance, labor, and materials surety agreement and accept the check provided by the developer for Phase 1, Map 1, River Falls.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yep.
It does, although I do have a little request.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if anybody else has seen that tie-in job that they did. But we probably gonna need to talk to them about that tie-in job that they did. On Gold Hill Road.
We typically cover that prior to any street acceptance from the city.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
With that, any further discussion, gentlemen? All right, well, I'll ask the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
The moment you vote.
don't we
hold
have
the
some
door.
strobe lights or anything like that we can? No?
Drum
No
roll?
strobe lights? All right, well, we got to recognize the service of our council members, Ryan Richard and Gus Matchunis, because you
You
guys
sure
have
about
done
this?
oh so good of a job for us for many years, and we appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. I do not know what I would have done these past 2 years without you guys. So please let us recognize you now. Come on down.
I don't know if we're going to get a chance to say anything, but I'd just like to say, I appreciate the tenure that you guys had when we came on board. I still feel like a rookie, and I hate that you guys are leaving. I'm super excited about the new council members that are coming on board because I think they're going to do an excellent job. I'm not going to say they're going to do a better job than you, but they might. But you guys have done a really good job of being mentors for us and helping show us the way. And I appreciate you guys doing that. We don't always see eye to eye, but we're a team, and we've worked really well together, and I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
I was going to do it in council comments. I guess we're doing it now. No, I echo what Scott just said. Obviously, we showed up here. We're brand new. You guys really lended the advice, guided us. We learned, how to operate as a council, and really appreciate that. And your service. I mean, Ryan 8 years, Gus 6 years. I mean, the whole city owes you a debt of gratitude. To be willing to serve is everybody knows is not easy. You really put yourself out there, and you guys have done a great job. And just thank you for everything you've done. Appreciate it. And I'm gonna miss you.
So, gentlemen, on behalf of city staff, city council, and the city, we would like to present you each with one of these. You all to hang up as you choose. And being on council takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Miss Sarah, would you like to come on up, please? Got you a little something too, because it does take a lot of y'all's time away from your families. So, gentlemen, thank y'all for your service.
You were there when he started this, so you might as well be there when he finishes. Who we giving it to? Get everybody in. And Gus, that looks like a really heavy picture frame there. So if you need some help, Ryan's been working out. Look at those guns, right? There you go.
Just going to say, I know from experience, because my wife is watching, Sarah had a tougher job.
Yeah. All right, and that will bring us to our city manager's report. Please take it away, Mr. Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll be very brief. We've been here for a good length of time already this evening. First and foremost, again, Mr. Matchunis, Mr. Richard, thank you very much for your service. I think every meeting y'all have done everything you can to try to continue to improve the city and help us to continue to grow. I appreciate your tutelage, your kindness, and just putting yourself out there. It is can absolutely be a thankless job. So thank you very much. Council offices are going to be closed on Monday and Tuesday, the 25th and 26th, for the Christmas holidays. Gretchen will make sure all of our emergency numbers are out there if somebody has an emergency over the Christmas holidays, and we'll reopen at our normal times on Wednesday. For the general public, we will be having a special council meeting on January the 4th. The purpose of that meeting will be to swear in our new council members, and then we'll have our regular council meeting on January 16th. So looking forward to adding new members to the team and getting started with them. I think it's going to be great. And last but certainly not least, I hope everyone has a wonderful, very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season with their families and their loved ones. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Funderburk. And that will bring us to cover council comments. And gentlemen, I'd like to switch up the order just a little bit this evening so that we can provide you guys with, if that would be okay. Okay. Councilman Shirley, please, if you would, sir.
You bet. Well, we really appreciate the service that you guys provided our city during the time that you were on council. And what a lot of people don't see is what you guys put into it when you're not up here on camera. And that's what really matters to the city, what you guys really, the way you dedicate yourselves to the city, what this council goes through, the conversations we have throughout the month. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, this council strives really hard every single day, every single month to get it right. And you guys have done that, and I appreciate it. And it's been visible that we've made some mistakes. We've dropped the ball a couple of times, and I think in life, that's what it looks like. And what I think this council has done, and man, I hate to give credit to Christoph Halverson, but you called it out that we need to hold each other accountable, and this council has done that, and we've done that with each other. We communicate with each other on a regular basis. I'm still going to communicate with you guys after January 4th, and appreciate the service that you provided the city. You guys did a great job, and you're going to be missed. I'm very excited about the 2 new rookies that are coming in, and they don't know what they signed up for, but we're going to help them come along. I wish we could help them as good as you guys helped us. Thank you.
Dr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just the entire city staff, thank you for everything you've done this entire year. You guys run the city and everything functions, and so much goes on behind the scenes to keep the city functioning. So thank you to the entire city staff, from Charlie to every single employee. It can't be said enough. To the people here, I know we've lost some, went home. I appreciate you being here. This is your city, okay? We want your input, your feedback, your suggestions. So thank you for coming. Listen, it ain't easy sitting up here and not being able to respond. I've said it before. Council comments, public comments is kind of weird thing. We sit here and listen. But it's almost better because then we can take it all in. But thank you for coming. Thank you for giving the comments. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'll meet anybody, anytime, about any topic. I'll tell you everything I know. I will
obviously
drop some F-bombs, unfortunately, sometimes in private. I was in the military for a long time. It's hard to break. I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability. If I don't have the answer, I'll try to get it. When I make a mistake, I'll admit it, and I'll try to fix it. as Scott just said, we're human. We make mistakes, and you know, and when I make a mistake and you call me on it, I'm going to do everything I can to fix it. So just know that there's no ill will, there's no malice. Listen, I make mistakes. I'm human, and if I make a mistake, I'll do everything I can to fix it, and hold myself accountable. And please hold me accountable. I ask that of all of you. Every citizen, if you think I'm screwing up or I made a mistake, tell me I screwed up, I made a mistake, and we can debate it. On that topic, you know, Haley came earlier. Ryan, you spoke to it. You know, we need to get back to civility. It's okay to disagree, you know, but you don't have to be disagreeable in the you know, just, geez, some of the stuff. I don't comment on city business on social media, but I do read it. Believe me, I read everything you guys post because I want to know what your concerns are. If you're not going to call me, I'll go read what you post. In the attacks on each other personally between citizens about topics, just let's take it down and talk and get it right. The Planning Commission next month, Ryan mentioned it. Please go. It's important. Get your input. The hotel in the Marina District is on the discussion. If you want it off there, come and tell them you don't want a hotel in the Marina District overlay. Is an approved use, and then they'll make a recommendation to us, and we'll make a vote. In that, I'm sorry, I'm being just a little long. I want to make sure everyone understands that the zoning. I mentioned it last week. The underlying zoning of every piece of property in the city is what controls that property. If somebody wants to change the zoning, they have to come to Planning Commission with a request. It has to be a public hearing. Planning Commission makes a recommendation, then it comes to us to change the zoning. The Marina Overlay District is additional restrictions, okay? So, for example, a property was owned B1 commercial in the Marina, in anywhere in the city right now, there's a laundry list of topics of commercial industries that can be inside that zoning B1. The Marina Overlay District significantly reduces what's allowed inside that district in the commercial B1 zoning. And that's why there's only a handful of authorized uses. Whoever passed this zoning district back in 2012, at that time, they said we would like these as some potential options, but nothing else. So the Marina Overlay District actually protects the area in that it limits what can be done in the zoning. If we get rid of the Marina Overlay District, anything zoned B1 can have any usage that's authorized in B1 commercial zoning. So just, I want everyone to understand that. It's not authorizing anything, it's limiting what can be there. So, with that, I wanted, I thank Christoph for coming and giving comments. I just want to address one thing you mentioned about the TKK Forever. I would direct anybody, if you're worried about, again, I was only there 6 months as council liaison, but the new board came in and did a wonderful job, and the first thing they did was sit down with Bob, our financial director, and go through the books, for lack of the finances. Because we didn't have a treasurer for years, the city staff, most of the time involved, our financial director had to basically function as the treasurer for TK Forever. And they went through with a fine-tooth comb, the board did, and looked at everything to understand it and make sure everything was on the up and up, and they were totally fine with it. It was 99% of the money in there was city money that the city put in there to try to encourage donations, and it all went to Catawba Park, and all the expenditures are listed or itemized. If you got any questions, I'm happy to talk to you more about that. I just want to make sure, that there wasn't concerns about that. Ron and Gus, thanks again. I know I've talked too long. We'll talk more later. I do appreciate everything you've done for me personally, for the city, for the council. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays for any faith or whatever you may celebrate. I hope you have a wonderful time, and we will see you in the new year.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Richard, if you would, please, sir.
Sure. I'm not going to take a lot of time as usual. As you guys know, I always say you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And so first and foremost, Charlie, you and your staff, the city employees, are the heartbeat of this city. And so the department heads, as well as yourself, being able to pick and choose. Sometimes it's a little more difficult than not to fill those roles, but to find the right people to fill the roles to do what they do within the city is very difficult. And in my past 8 years in 4 councils, you guys have done a fantastic job. I moved here and Joey had my kids at a rec sports program at Rundy Park in 2009, and he's basically the assistant city manager now. So seeing the growth of the people, and that's the goal, is being able to hand select people that you know could grow within an organization. And you guys, all of you, have done a very good job for selecting people that have loyalty and commitment to the city and the goal and what we're looking to do. And it's the reason that the city has flourished the way that it has, because of its staff. So number one, I know I always thank police and fire and all of that every week, but every city employee needs to know how thankful I am for you guys and how thankful I am to the leaders that are able to select that staff and ensure we're selecting the right type of employees. And so thanks for all the employees in the city of TK. The 4 councils I've been on, guys, they were all great back in the day. Dottie Hersey, George Shepard, Jennifer Stalford, Heather Overman, Alicia Dash, Dave O'Neill. This crew here, Gus and I have been on a couple of councils together. If there's one thing I could say about the camaraderie within councils, this group here has been, I don't want to say difficult to work with. Everybody here has their opinions and is willing to have a conversation with each other when we disagree. I think Scott and I told each other to, just so you know. In full disclosure. And then we had a conversation about it after. Because why not? It's what we're supposed to do as leaders of the city. Yes, I snuck the F word in there for the first time, guys. Sorry. But it's to be able to have those difficult conversations and still move on as adults and leaders within the city is something that's special and that has been unique to this council specifically. And nothing against the others. Again, I loved all the other councils as well. But it was always politics on who wants what and how to get there. And this group of guys here has done very well working together and having difficult conversations, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone or over text or whatever it may be. So kudos to you guys for being willing to serve and being willing to have those difficult conversations. Because I was going to go one of 2 ways. I was thinking, man, I could be funny and, say things that might insult a few people, but get a couple of laughs. And it's like, let me lean the other way and just take the high road, enjoy the time. It's been a great 8 years, guys. For those of you that come up here that challenge us as a council, I want to say thank you, because those are the things that encourage us to have those difficult conversations. And so in the spirit of, what was mentioned earlier as far as for being kind to one another, but also being able to challenge one another, that's been something special about this council. So I want to say thanks to all of you guys. Thanks for all the citizens of TEK. It's been a great 8 years. Enjoyed the time, and thanks to everyone. I'll shut up. All you guys.
All you guys.
Buckle up. Buckle up for safety, everyone. No, I was debating for the last few weeks whether to go all scorched earth on this, and a dear friend of mine looked at me and she said, "You need to pray about it." So I did. God told me to take the high road. But my mama, she always told me that the Lord helps those who help themselves. So I'm going to take the medium high road, okay? First and foremost, just to set the record straight on something real quick, regarding the TK logo that was placed in the roundabout on Stonecrest, no laws or ordinances were broken, and unless I've missed a meeting, and I haven't missed a council meeting in 6 years, I don't ever remember Liz Duda being escorted out by the police either. But it's neither here nor there. I moved here in 1997. TK was 2,500 people. Lakeshore didn't exist. Serenity Point, Lake Ridge, none of that was there. We had my oldest child was just getting ready to go in the first grade, and I had a job opportunity in Charlotte, and I was told that TKK was the place to live and the place to raise children. And since 1997, I still believe it, and can never imagine leaving here. I was a young man then. I'm not anymore. The older I get, the more I feel the need to give back. This city's been very good to me and to my family, and I wanted to do something to help. Maybe I'm just trying to make up for a rotten childhood, but anyway, meaning I was rotten, not that I had a rotten childhood. So that's why I ran. I'm very honored to have served for 6 years, and have served with some incredible people we'll talk about later. I do, here comes the medium high road part. David O'Neill, our mayor before the Honorable Mr. Gray over here, David said a few times that people that serve on city council, we're all reasonably successful people with our families and careers, and we don't turn stupid the minute we get elected. It just doesn't happen that way. So I think getting back to what Haley said when she came up there today, that broke my heart. I mean, it truly did. And there's so much of that goes on right now. And for her to have to get up there in tears and say what she said, I think everybody needs to understand that while we are public figures to some degree, we're fathers, we're mothers, we're sons, we're daughters. We're people just like you, okay? And if you cut us, we bleed, just like you. When I took the job, I honestly had no clue that there was any money involved until Miss Dora over here calls me and asks me for my routing number and my checking account number and my social security number. And I said, what for? She said, for your council pay. I said, we get paid for this? She said, yeah. It's $300 a month, y'all. So basically, we volunteer our time away from our family to ensure that you can have a better life here in TKK with your family, all right? And we try our best. We don't get it right every time, but we try our very best. It's tough, and it was really tough for my wife, God love her. But when people start throwing personal insults, talk of backdoor deals, corruption, things like that, it's just uncalled for. Like Tom said, if you want to ask a question, just ask a question. You can call anybody up here, and I'm sure the two incoming council members are going to be that way as well. Questioning people's integrity, spreading rumors, putting falsehoods out there on social media. If it's on social media, it must be true, right? Well, it's not, okay? So call off the dogs. Just please call off the dogs. I would share with you that I feel the utmost confidence that everything regarding the marina will be resolved by these three gentlemen and Carmen and Brian. So just be nice. It doesn't happen. Be nice. So back to the high road. I served with Alicia Dash. Alicia never met a question that she didn't like or asked, but she did a great job for us, and I appreciated that. Heather Overman. Heather's a good example of what I was just talking about. Heather, I didn't know her before I served with her, but I served with her for 4 years, okay? She and I are about as far apart politically as you could possibly be. She's way over here, and I'm way over there. 4 years together. She was my closest person on council. Sorry, Ryan. We talked about things I think we disagreed on one vote because we were voting for what's best for TKK, not for anything else. David, No Filter O'Neill, what more can I say? Ryan, how you've been able to do this for 8 years while building your business, I don't know. You served our country first, and you brought those same concepts and that same leadership to your company, and that's why you're so successful. And I admire the hell out of you for it. Okay, and you always talk about everybody else. You always talk about your people. You always talk about your successes because of your people. That's a leader. Okay. Tom, our cybersecurity expert and resident trivia guy. There you go. Scott, we don't always agree with each other, but damn, we always know where you stand, don't we? And our Mayor Gray, Chris got a heart of gold. When he sits up here and he says he just wants everybody to love on one another, he really does mean that. He wants the city to get together, wants it to stop tearing itself down. I will say it's been quite a ride for 2 terms, and I will say, we didn't knock them out of the park every time. We didn't get it right every single time, but damn it, we tried. And, a couple times we did. But I would like to just go over a few things that have happened since I've been on council that we were able to accomplish together, whether it was my first council with Ryan or the 5 of us you see up here. When I first came on board, we were in the initial planning stages of building a police station. The old one was pitiful. It was awful. I don't know how they operated out of it. Don't know how they got accredited. But we built a beautiful new police station that will serve this community for years to come. And if it ever needs to expand, it can expand. Chief Parker was amazing, but when he left us, we recruited Chief Crosby, and just done an incredible job for us. We built the all play together inclusive park at Trailhead Park. Raised a lot of money for it, didn't use a lot of city funds. We did use a lot of city volunteers for it. I can tell you that one of the day that it opened, when Fred Wingate put his son Logan in that swing and pushed him towards me, and the smile on that boy's face, one of the coolest things that happened to me the entire time I was on council. It was just amazing, and all the kids that play there now. We've got a new water tower at the entrance to the city to provide water pressure for everybody. We've got the logo on it, so you got good identifiers for the traditional TKK, which is one of the reasons why we put the other one in the roundabout. Impact fees. We didn't have impact fees when I first got here. We have impact fees. Let growth pay for growth. I would say that growth is paying for growth. We've done a lot with them. We'll continue to do a lot with them. The Windjammer Pavilion. The old pavilion was basically a picnic shelter. So we've got that beautiful new pavilion. When you ride by it on the lake, it's all lit up. You can see that it belongs to the city of Tega. It's well kept, and we did that with state money, not your money. Catawba Park, like an 18-year dream. Just happened to happen while the 5 of us were sitting up here. We didn't do all the work on it. It was done long before even Ryan came on council, but it came to fruition, and it's been a home run. Pun very much intended. It's not started quite yet, but Main Street. That is going to be transformational for this city. It's going to be sustainability of revenue. People talk about build out. I don't know if build out's ever going to happen, but if it does, with Main Street being there, we're not going to have to worry about loss of impact fees from new houses because we're going to get the revenue off the businesses that are there. When I came on council, I think we had maybe $1 million in reserves. That's basically the city's bank account. We got over $7 million in the bank now. $7 million. This year, for the first time since I was on council when we were doing the budget, we got some capital expenditure requests from various department heads. We've always done bonds and borrowed money and done whatever we had to do because we just didn't have it. We approved $1 million worth of, here, let's write a check for this instead of borrowing money for it. We've never been able to do that before. Your city is in the best financial shape it has ever been in. Do you agree, Mr. Funderburk? Best shape it's ever been in. And we did this with no millage increase. We have not raised your taxes again. So I would like to say, once again, what a ride. Guys, I would not trade this experience for anything. It has been overwhelmingly positive. The positives far outweighed the couple negatives. I think that we left the city better than we found it, and that was my goal going in. So to anyone who voted for me, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Yeah, I did want to bring something up because I just looked at Casey. I made a point after the last council meeting, our special session, to call her the next morning. And you know, we were talking to each other about the events of the meeting, and we worked our way through it. And she said, you know, Gus, I've known you for a long time, and we have known each other for a very, very long time. And she said, I appreciate what you do. We may not agree on everything, but, you know, I appreciate it, and I still like you. And I said, no, Casey, in today's climate, you're not allowed to do that. If you don't agree with me, I have to hate you, and you have to hate me. And that's a joke, okay? So I'll get back to what I said before. Let's all just try and be nice to each other. It's so much easier, okay? So I would like to end after my 30-minute diatribe, or it just seemed like 30 minutes, by wishing every one of you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever holiday you follow or whatever one you don't. Spend it with your family. Tell them you love them. Hopefully you got family coming in town or you're going out of town to visit them, but enjoy yourselves, all right? And I appreciate everybody, okay?
Thank you, Councilman Matchunis. Which that comes to me, and I'm going to keep this brief. I'd like to thank both of you for your service. I'd like to thank both of you for your candor, for the conversations, and for the wisdom that you shared with me. I came into this, didn't really know exactly what I was doing, but you guys kind of took me under your wing, and I appreciate that. It's been a rough couple of months, and I will say thank God for kids. They remind us of the best in us. And I want to remind everyone that we are better than social media. We are better than misstatements that we probably shouldn't have said. We are better than social media posts that could have been a phone call instead of running somebody down on social media. Pick the phone up and call them. I said it last year and I'll say it again, folks. If you know anybody that is alone for the holidays, reach out to them. Reach out to your neighbor. Reach out to folks across the street. A few doors down from you, offer you a table, offer a seat, offer a meal, offer a hug, offer a Christmas present, maybe even a candy cane. Just show them that you love them. That's what TK does. I moved here a long time ago, and that's the way we used to be. And it breaks my heart that we're not that way right now, especially going into Christmas. I want all of us to be together. as a city, as a people. Let's start considering folks' feelings, because we are all human. We do miss the mark every once in a while, but we don't need to beat each other up over it. A simple phone call, a simple handshake, a simple, hey man, you want to get together and grab a sandwich? Let's talk about it. That works a lot better. So I vow to be better this year. And I hope everybody else can vow as well. Let's be better this year. And if we have problems with each other, let's do it the TK way, and let's pick up the phone and call somebody or drop by their house and have a conversation instead of bashing everybody like everybody else in the world does. I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I appreciate the fact that our firefighters and our PD and our city staff are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I do it myself as well, and I know what they go through, and I appreciate you guys. My hat's off to you. Our city is beautiful because of our city staff and because of the people in it, and we just need to make sure that we protect this place that we love so much, and part of that's protecting the people that live here as well, and we will do our best to do that. We've got many things coming up that are going to help do that in our community, but it does not take place overnight. It has to take place legally and binding for the council, and it has to take place in steps. So with those, we are going to put the steps forward this next year to do the best that we can to ensure that the TK bubble stays a TK bubble for many years to come. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contributions to maintaining the TK bubble. And to you as well, gentlemen, I appreciate you. I appreciate your service this year. Thank you for all your hard work. And with that, I would like to call for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Gus?
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is unanimous.
Glad the old
Have a
timers
great
took
evening.
us out.